Nets assistant coach Mike D'Antoni interviewed with the Portland Trail Blazers yesterday. Chauncey Billups and Becky Hammon are also set to interview for the job later this week. Paging Stephen A. Smith.
What's up? What do you want to know?
I want to know how you feel about it.
Mike D'Antoni deserves to be interviewed. I don't think he deserves the job. Mike D'Antoni is very innovative offensively, but we see what he brings to the table. He's had 16 years of head coaching experience on the NBA level. He's never even gotten to an NBA Finals. It does come a point in time where it's somebody else's time. And I view him as a guy that continues to get chance after chance after chance. And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be a head coach somewhere else, maybe with a team that done nothing. And, maybe someplace like Charlotte with young talent where, you got cats that can push the ball up the floor, high rises, they're relatively entertaining, and he can do that. But when you talk about Portland with an experienced backcourt like Dame and CJ, I think this is just something that's going to push Damian Lillard out the door. This is something that's going to make him really, really want to leave Portland because I don't think it should happen. Why are we not talking about Sam Cassell? Why are we not talking about Chauncey Billups? Why are we not talking about guys like that? Even a guy like David Vanderpool, who was an assistant in Portland and an assistant in Minnesota, who is very, very close to Damian Lillard. How about guys like that? Give him an opportunity, because certainly D'Antoni has had his opportunities. Why can't somebody else get theirs?
D'Antoni's never had a roster that was the best roster in the league. He's never won a championship. But you know what D'Antoni could do?
He ain't going to have one in Portland either.
Why? Unless Damian Lillard. If Damian Lillard objected, I would say, okay, Dame, it's your team. But unless Damian Lillard objected, the reason Portland hasn't won a championship has nothing to do with coaching. Their roster isn't good enough, period. You may want to, because the money works on this trade. You want to trade McCollum for Brandon Ingram? Even then, is Ingram and Lillard and whatever else? That's not a championship roster. The roster is not good enough. You know what you do with a roster that's not good enough, but with a dynamic point guard? If that point guard will buy into D'Antoni's system or to D'Antoni, go get Mike D'Antoni, because he will get that team closer than they deserve to get to the promised land. They will be better coached by Mike D'Antoni than they would otherwise be. And you know what'll happen? They're so much better than they should be that when they fail to win a championship because their players aren't good enough, Stephen A., you and others will point to D'Antoni. See, D'Antoni can't get it done. What? He doesn't have the horses. He gets farther with less than others. D'Antoni for Lillard, if Lillard wants him, is perfect. It's perfect.
He wins games, but not championships. And I think that there are an abundance of people in the league who can do that. The man has had 16 years as a head coach at 4 different locations in his career. You don't think that somebody else could win a few games and get to the postseason with a roster like Portland has? I think they could.
Took the Warriors 7 games. All right. 7 games, and they played at home. LeBron couldn't do that.
Another
49 points. We saw an annihilation in place. And the Bucks showed up for Game 3, which we both predicted would happen. But still, we didn't see any way that the Brooklyn Nets were going to lose this series so long as they were healthy enough to play. That's not the case. Kyrie Irving and James Harden are both out. And I don't expect the Brooklyn Nets to win this series without Kyrie and James Harden. But who knows if they would be available for Game 7, which takes us to Game 5. Because Milwaukee's winning Game 6. They're not losing Game 6 in Milwaukee. They will win that game. So to me, it comes down to tonight. And where I became one of my most famous quotes, Max and Molly, was in 2001 when I was a beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer covering Allen Iverson and the Philadelphia 76ers. My boy Kevin Frazier for Entertainment Tonight always brings this up, because they were interviewing me and I said the Lakers in 5, it's nothing to discuss. And everybody was like, well, why ain't you calling a sweep? And I said, oh, AI will get you one. AI will get you one. 6 feet, 160 pounds, soaking wet. The answer, Allen Iverson rolled into the Staples Center and dropped 48 and stepped over Ty Lue to clinch the deal. It was just one game. I knew they wouldn't win another, but he got you one. Because in the game of basketball, when you are that dude, when you are that superstar caliber player, you can get a game. Not the series, but a game. That's what we're asking Kevin Durant to do tonight. Please understand something. I don't know if anybody knows this. Max, I don't know if anybody has said this before. Kevin Durant is the greatest player in the history of New York. There's been not Clyde Frazier in 1971, not Patrick Ewing, not Carmelo Anthony, no one. Kevin Durant is the greatest basketball player to ever represent the city of New York in basketball.
That's true.
Period. There's no doubt about it. Okay? You can 7 feet, arguably one of the top 3 scorers in the history of basketball. You can't just show up for one game, although you're 44 games removed from that Achilles injury. You can't show up for one night and get one game. I believe he can. I believe he will. I believe a night like tonight, KD drops 50. And it saves Brooklyn for a few days, hoping that Kyrie and or James Harden can come back for Game 7 because they're going to lose Game 6. They don't even need to travel to Milwaukee.
You don't get to get you can't get away with that. Time out. Wait a minute. KD doesn't have Kyrie or James Harden, right? You know who else doesn't have Kyrie or James Harden? Giannis. He never has Kyrie or James Harden. When he plays KD, the second best player in the series will always be on KD's team. Middleton and Holiday show up as stars sometimes, which is why they're not perennial all-stars. They're sometimes all-stars. Harden and Kyrie, those guys show up all the time. That's why they're perennial all-stars, and in Harden's case, and a perennial MVP candidate. Now, all of a sudden, Giannis has the second and third best player, outside of Giannis and KD in the series. Now it's KD, Giannis, and then the next 2 best players are both on Giannis's team. And now all of a sudden KD gets off the hook? Why? Well, you weren't letting Giannis off the hook. I was. I'm not expecting KD to win the series now. He doesn't have a set. He still has Joe Harris shoot the lights out. Still has Blake Griffin.
I'll answer your question.
Blake Griffin, good. He hits you with a double-double, basically averaging for the series. And if he needs to step up, he's capable of more. We saw him posterize Giannis. Physically, he looks good again. No. If you're not letting Giannis off the hook, then KD doesn't get off the hook either in this case. And if you think KD can win one game, well, look, when you say a star can get you one, I remember LeBron James had one game of Kyrie Irving against the Warriors in 2015. They lost that game in overtime. Then he didn't have Kyrie the rest of the series. Also didn't have Kevin Love all series. Got two. You're saying one game to start a series? You're saying KD can get one game now? There's 3 games left. If you can get one, now it's going to come down to a one-game win or go home. You should be able to get that one, too. I'm giving KD a pass because he doesn't have his guys, but you should hold him to the same standard you hold Giannis.
Well, first of all, that's a very ignorant statement for a couple of reasons. Number one, KD, give me KD with Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, and I still would have picked them. What I'm saying to you is this. When I get on Giannis, I get on Giannis for 2 things. Number one, his perimeter shooting or lack thereof. And number 2, the fact that you called him the best player in the world. Those are the things that I get on Giannis about. In terms of, I never picked Giannis to win this series. I said Brooklyn all day, every day. I said Brooklyn at the beginning of the season. I said Brooklyn coming into this series. And I said Giannis against KD, it's no real match because he can't hit perimeter shots. He needs somebody else to do that for him, particularly in tight playoff competition, because he can't make those perimeter shots. And I think that's been proven true. Even though Giannis is big time, that's his Achilles heel. The case with Kevin Durant, Joe Harris can't hit shots away from the Barclays Center. Blake Griffin suddenly looked like he was in Detroit again. Okay, Jeff Green just returned after being out throughout the playoffs because of his injury. And again, whether it's Kyrie or James Harden, I've been on the record stating just one of them with him, KD will win. But to ask him to win this series without them, I think is a bit much. But again, you take one game at a time. And in my opinion, he should be able to deliver the goods tonight. One game to force a Game 7 back at the Barclays Center. He should be able to win one game.
3 things. 1, I said Giannis was the best player in the world because he was the reigning regular season MVP. And as a prediction, I thought he would do well in that playoffs. He did not.
You
and so I had
highlighted
to
how
say
others won the league MVP, but they weren't the best.
I get given his age, his size, the kind of player he was, that was predictive on my part.
You were the only person on the planet that didn't know that he didn't have a jump shot.
Sometimes you make predictions that are wrong. And when the series was over, I was like, okay, my prediction on Giannis was wrong. That's number one. Number two,
when the series was over. It was when the weekend was over.
If KD had Middleton and Drew Holiday and Giannis had Harden and Kyrie, Giannis's team would win. Absolutely, Giannis's team would win. If he had Harden and Kyrie. That's two. Three, you are saying...
True. I don't think that's absolutely true.
You are saying KD is the best player in the world. You said he's number one, right? Let me just remind you again.
Yeah, go ahead.
LeBron in 2015, no Kyrie for one game, no Kevin Love. So no games, one game with Kyrie, no Kevin Love. And they lost the game with Kyrie with Matthew Dellavedova as his main support. Took the Steph, Clay, Dre Warriors, Iggy Warriors 6 games. 6 games, won 2 from those guys.
Max.
Let's see, Kevin Love has more around him than LeBron had that year.
How many times have I told you to be quiet about that particular series? That the Golden State Warriors had never won before. They were babies. So when Kyrie got hurt the first year, and Kevin Love had gotten hurt in the series against Boston, that forced him to miss the remainder of the playoffs, LeBron was the one with championship experience. He was the best player in the world at that time as well, and he was going up against a relatively young squad. So winning 2 games against them